Hello, everyone. Good morning from this side. So I hope all of you can hear me very well. So in case you're facing any problem, you can just reach out on the chat section. Maybe raise your hand. So we're doing a resumption on training, the HSA VSS certification. So we've been doing the training for the past, I think more than 4 weeks ago. So just a resumption on the same. So let me just begin by introducing myself. My name is Shelton Kipkoech. From Dahua Technology at the Tech Support Department. So my contacts are as below. So in case of anything concerning Dahua, you can reach out to me via the contacts below. So we also have a team of other 2 technicians. I sent the numbers yesterday. In case you need to do contact on the same, you can reach out to me, then I'll link you up with them. So our technical support team is growing, and so we're aimed at providing better services to you on your side. Okay, so yesterday we did tutorials on recorder. So we did yesterday HDCVI system, and today we are going to do Dahua wireless. So not more of transmission devices. So the transmission including wireless devices, switches, and other wireless related devices. So from what we're supposed to cover, we based on the certification course outline. At this point, well, we have from the objectives that we need to do, we have covered the first 3. We are finishing with the 4th one. Then we'll do the installation. Now the practical part of it will come in. So the practical part of it will come in later when we are done with the theory. So the reason why we are doing sessions is because a lot of more theoretical session is because of the ground that we need to cover for us to finish the theory part. So the exam will entail the following. So you need to know about CCTV knowledge, training basic information, know about basic networking information, understand Dahua products, including cameras, be able to identify how many megapixels the camera, what this camera can do. So the basic functionalities for you to be able to do a basic surveillance system. So product installation and configuration will reach out to this later. So I think now we can begin on the transmission devices. So our training today will be 2 sessions. I'll have the first session at this time. Then at 11:45, we're going to begin another session. So we'll break out at 11:30, then resume at 11:45. So you just click the link and join us. We do the same. We finish another configuration. So sound, I think the sound is good. Maybe you can check if you have muted me, or check the configuration on your side. Okay, today's training is about transmission, and transmission is basically more of the layer 2. So while we are doing the first introduction to the networking systems. So based on the OSI layer, we're at layer 2. So it's more of how you can get information from one point to another, transferring information, getting that links, like getting information from the front-end devices to the backside devices. Based on the network challenges that you are facing while doing traditional configuration of transmission, so there are cases where you'd have multiple locations. There are cases where you'd get those slow links. So the transmission case side from our company, I think most of the companies that do IT systems is more of into easing that traditional problems and getting that communication very well. So our transmission system is focused more on security and at the same time providing better communication between devices. So for us to be able to know about transmission, there are basic information that we need to know. What's the difference between IT and security? So for IT cases involve cases where you do like browsing on your phone, getting to stream videos on maybe YouTube, checking on websites. While security is more of surveillance. So the comparing the data transmission rates between IT and security. So in IT world, the data rate is usually low. So like if you're getting a browser in a browser, the data is very low. So the data in terms of audio, picture, video. So an image or a text, that is the web pages, the information is quite low. That's where you get usually speeds of files of 10 kbps to 1 mbps. So they'll just require this minimum speed. While in security, while you are doing videos, you will get a data rate from 4 to 8. So this is quite large, even at 16 to 32 when transferring iframe rates. So remember when we talk about what iframes are. So how do you solve such cases where you would need to do high transmission rate? So in terms of hardware architecture, in terms of software, we'll get to check them in this section. So in this one is just more of the same thing. So in an IT section, when you have an aggregation switch, so for those of us who don't know aggregation switch, this is the core switch, the last switch, that powerful switch. So you did just do transmission of information like HTTP data, emails, etc. While in a security world, you do transmission of videos of large files. So you see this red is quite large files, videos. So this is just still another comparison between IT and security. So also for IT is more focused into like those server room side, where you get to have those fancy devices in the server room side. While security is like the front end, like cameras, etc. Basically surveillance. This is just another basic information for security. So why would you go with the Dahua switch? So why would you choose the Dahua switch over other model switches? So our switches can have high buffer memory. So, and also flow control is another feature that our switches has. So like just like other switches that have flow control, we also do flow control on Dahua switches, but it's more of optimized into the application side of the security system. So for a normal switch, you would get a buffer memory from 0.5 to 5.5 megabit, while for a system, you'd have a high buffer memory. So the buffer memory is just basically the storage for information before proceeding with transmission. So our advantages, just basically large buffer memory and good flow control in video transmission. Also, in case for our switches, there are working temperatures that you need to consider while installation. So we have working temperatures of 0 to 40 degrees Celsius. So in the difference between in the enterprise level and the security level. So for the security level where our switches resides, you do have switches that work in temperatures between even 40 to 75 degrees Celsius. So unlike in the case where you have a switch in enterprise level within 0 to 40 degrees Celsius, and if this threshold is more, you would get the switch will have it might crash or something, or get spoiled. But for our case, it will still operate in that 40 to 75 degrees Celsius. So you get a good working temperatures with the switches. Apart from that, we have the long distance PoE. So ePoE is a proprietary technology in Dahua. So it's like a custom to our Dahua products, where you'd have transmission of, whilst you will do a normal transmission of a PoE switch in 100 meters, we have transmission of UTP cable of even 800 meters. So ePoE technology. So we have in what we have is 250 meters, 800 meters, like more transmission distance, even doing a kilometer PoE transmission via coaxial. So you can see. Another maybe important feature while selecting going with the Dahua switches, we have intelligent PoE. So what is intelligent PoE? Intelligent PoE is more of prioritizing what power needs to go to where. Like devices connected to the switch will be able to know which device need more power. So we have VIP ports. So from the layman side, VIP ports. So VIP ports are ports that in case other fails, these ports get to do operational. Like it will prioritize the power to the VIP ports. So for a normal switch, typically you would, in case there's something wrong, like you have all these ports doing 20 watts. In case of a failure, you would find all of them going down. But for our Dahua switch, we have this PoE. You see this port here with yes, Nicholas, maybe you can get us in the chat section so that we resume and I'll answer the question in the chat section. So while Dahua switch, we have this PoE here. In case port 4 fails, you still have other ports running. So it's a very good feature. So you can, in case, Dr. Nicholas, if you have issue, you can get us in the chat section. Okay, as we resume. So apart from having intelligent features, we have the 8-pin power supply. I'm told that you cannot hear me. My speaker is very good. Check on your side the volume or anything, because my speaker is good. Okay, we resume. So we have 8-pin power supply. So in unlike traditional cases where you do power supply with 4-pin, so this 8-pin, this one is just basically RJ45. So sound is good. Brand Martins is selling sound is good. So if you're having issues with the sound, check on your side. So unlike for these ones are the RJ45, so like 8-pin and 4-pin. So in traditional switches, you'd have power using 4-pin, but with the Dahua, you get power using 8-pin. So the way it applies the power using the 8-pin, it's more of into the electrical part, but the advantage is that the our 8-pin is our switches provide 8-pin power supply. So the 8 pin will basically be applied in the long distance transmission cases. If you can't hear me, kindly check if you have muted me, or maybe the sound issues on your side, because most of other participants can get to hear me. Another maybe feature for our switches is iLinks view. So the iLinks in full is intelligent video. So what it means is intelligent visible CCTV network management system. So like you're getting to have like a map of where the devices are. So this with the switches, it's like a spanning tree protocol for those who have done Cisco. So it will be able to identify the devices in its network. So like I talked before about the switches that we offer. So the switches in general categorization of so the general categorization can you give me a minute? So the general categorization of our switches are and basically other switches is it's access switches, configuration of aggregation, and core layer. So access layer is basically the lowest level for transmission. So in the access layer, you are getting devices like wireless devices, those devices, transmission devices that do connect with the clients directly. Then you have the aggregation switch and the core switch. Those are the switches that will do connection with the access layer switches and to the back side of the network, like the core part of the network now, including the storage, display, and controller, etc. So Dahua technology provides all of this. So we have switches at the access layer, we have switches at the core layer, and the aggregation layer. So maybe you can check from this list here. We are having at the access layer, you can see devices like wireless devices. So we also do wireless for those maybe of us who are concerned whether we have wireless devices. Apart from that, we also have accessories. So from SFP to dual rain power in. Then we have switches that are can be used in different application scenarios like home office use from the SOHO, enterprise-based switches, and hardened switches. So hardened switches are more of the outdoor scenario, application scenario switches. So from the enterprise level, we'll come and check this more of into detail about this. So you have even hardened SFP switches, fully SFP switches. And even the core switches. So the core switches in the enterprise that can do routing or layer 3 switches. So we'll just get more of into that. So if you're facing issues with the sound, kindly check on your side. So we'll begin by normal desktops PoE switches. So like these one are just like those dealing switches that you usually use on the office side. So those small switches. So the product family are as below. And in terms of cost and indoor use, is fine. So also we remember when we were talking about naming rule, we talked about switches. So for you to know what a switch is usually PFS. So if you see PF, then S, that is the switch. So if you see a PFS 3, so that is a layer 2 switch managed. If you see a PFS 4, so that's a layer. Sorry. So we have layer 2 managed and you have layer 3 managed switches. So the product family are as below. So maybe we can just take one of the switches as a study. So for this case, we have this naming as PFS 4218. So the 18 number here would mean the total number of ports that this switch has. So if you count all of this, plus this is 18 usable ports. Then 2 uplink ports. So the 2 here is an uplink port. 16 ET means 16 power Ethernet ports. So Ethernet ports is more of 100 M, that is 100 Mbps speed. Then from the right side, that's about the power. So it's easy to identify switches and get to know the naming convention for the switches. So the advantages of such switches, we have cases where you do transmission of distances like 250 meters. So that's quite some long distance transmission. And also cases for the intelligent PoE. So we talked about this feature when we started, like prioritizing which power goes to which port. Another set of switches that we provide as a company is the desktop PoE switch, low power models. So these ones are the ones that those have a bit of low power. So as I told you before, here we have the far right side is more of power. This numbering here 190 to 40 slash. So from this side here is more of the power output. So we have low power models, specific models that do low power output, like this one for 36, 65, and 35 watts. So the average power outputs for the low power models are 8 to 9 watts. So depending on your application of the devices that you have in your network, which devices consume how many power, you can opt for this one. So you know what power is required by which port, so that you don't end up maybe getting to suggest a product, then it fails at the end side. So power is something factor that you need to do while doing PoE usage in the network. Also, we have a gigabit PoE switch. So you're getting a speed of 1 Gbps per port, and then the power PoE with using that port. So for the gigabit, the numbering, as I told you before, is easy. So for this case, if we can use this one, you can see 2 uplink ports, 12 ports in total, and then 8 gigabit ports. So also the power output 96 watts. So maybe for the certification purposes, just get to know the naming convention for the switches, and also maybe you can see which features the switches has, like in cases for VLANs, a spanning tree protocol. Maybe just to get to know basics of the switches for the case of certification cases. But in case when you need to do product suggestion and suggesting a product to the client, you need to put into consideration also the working temperatures, etc. So someone is asking, what do we mean by 2 GE and 2 GF? So 4GT, it's the terms are interchangeable. It's more of so if you see a GE is Ethernet, and the other one is a fiber. So GF, gigabit Ethernet and gigabit fiber. So if you see a GF, you can see the switches uses SFP for connection, but the speed is gigabit for the two. Other models that we have are the hardened PoE switches. So the hardened PoE switches are more of switches that can be used on the outdoor side. So the features include high protection in terms of power. So in case of you're having in sites where you have power interruptions, these are very good switches that can be used on that such sites. Other features for the hardened is dual power. So the dual power is like you power the devices using, it has two power inputs. So you can have a backup power supply from different sites. Maybe other models are the flat PoE switches. So the flat ones are more of, they are flat, basically flat model switches are flat. So unlike the way you see the design for switches like this, you're getting a switch with which is a flat switch. The ports are on the upper side. So these one are you can use, depending on your application side where you have different applications, you can see where you can apply such switches. So in terms of installation, on how the cables are running, you can opt for such design of switches. Apart from that, so we are doing just basically categories of switches where we have flat, we have hardened switches, gigabit switches, Ethernet switches. So we also have industrial PoE switches. So the features for these ones are like a protection from working temperatures. So if you are having a site like in a factory with high temperature cases, you can use such switches. So also it has high surge, it can protect from power, it can do high temperatures. And also we can have the feature for intelligent PoE where you have specific ports in case a port, there's prioritizing of power into specified ports for specified devices. So I don't know. We're going to take a break, then we resume at 11:45. So we are doing 2 sessions today, just like yesterday. When we're coming back at 11:45, we're going to do a PoE switch. So get to know more of a bit into ePoE. Now the naming convention, you can see the naming convention is quite different from the other naming conventions. So we'll just take a break we'll take a break at 11:45. It's a 15-minute break. Then we resume on the same. So in case of any question, any concern, you can you'll just get in the next session. So for those of us who are worried the sessions are recorded, you can do a reference later. They'll post them on YouTube. So we resume at 11:45.